If you're looking for a dog trainer in the Huntsville, Alabama area, check out Top Gun Dog Training. They've got a stellar reputation with nothing but 5-star reviews on Google and Facebook. Top Gun Dog Training specializes in training puppies as well as behavior modification for adult dogs. You can check them out at topgundogtraining.com. I'm Dale Buchanan, and this is Puppy Talk, the podcast that offers free advice and tips for raising a happy, healthy, and obedient puppy. For more information on this podcast, visit us online at puppytalkpodcast.com. Welcome to Puppy Talk episode number 135. I'm your host, Dale Buchanan. Today I'm going to talk about how owners teach their puppies bad habits without realizing it. Most owners assume their dog just picked up bad habits, but in reality, the owner usually taught the behavior without realizing it. The owners are reinforcing unwanted behaviors and not reinforcing the wanted behaviors or the good behaviors. The truth most owners miss. Dogs learn from consequences, not intentions. Owners think they are correcting, comforting, or managing their dog, but the dog is simply learning what works. Here are some examples. The dog jumps up on you, and you give it attention by pushing it down and saying stop or saying down or off. That puppy's getting attention. Therefore, in the puppy's mind, they're thinking, oh, they're giving me affection, they're giving me attention, they're talking to me. I must be doing something right, so I'm going to keep doing it. That's reinforcing the jumping. The next example is the dog barks and the owner talks to them. You're having a conversation with your dog. You're telling the dog, quiet. You're telling the dog, shut up. And they are barking more because they're having a conversation with you. The proper way to do it is to not reward the barking, but reward them when they're not barking and calm, because puppies are going to do more of what they're being rewarded for. The next example is the dog pulls on the leash and eventually reaches what it wants, whether it's another dog, a person, a tree, a bush, a bird, a squirrel, whatever. You're pulling back on the leash, they're pulling forward on the leash. It's a tug of war, and the puppy's winning because they're getting what they want, which is to move forward. The best thing to do would be to stop, call them back to you, put them in a sit, make them wait to stop the pulling, or to just do a U-turn. You go in the other direction from what they want, and then they get confused and they stop pulling. Those are some examples. It's also easy for owners to reinforce separation anxiety. What happens is when the dog has anxiety, it knows you're leaving, you try to comfort it. Oh, it's okay. I'll be back in a little while. And you give the puppy attention when they're anxious instead of teaching them independence, confidence, and calmness, which I have talked about in other podcast episodes. Let's talk about why this happens. Mostly because owners are reacting emotionally instead of teaching intentionally. Most people have simply not been shown how dogs actually learn from a professional dog trainer or dog behaviorist like myself. And I deal with this a lot with my clients. When I go to my clients and start working with them or talk to them on the phone about getting started, I tell them, the training isn't even for the dog. The training is for you. I'm your coach, and I'm going to teach you how to raise that puppy correctly and how to reinforce good behaviors and not reinforce bad behaviors so you don't stress out so much and have so much frustration trying to raise this puppy. Remember that dogs repeat what works. If they're getting attention from you when they're doing something wrong, they're going to keep doing it. It's very important for owners to have consistent rules and boundaries for the puppy so that they know exactly what you want. I've talked about this in a podcast recently. Is the dog being disobedient or is the dog confused? A lot of times the dog is confused because they don't know what the rules are. You haven't implemented them. There's no consequences. Timing matters more than most owners think, because if you are giving the puppy attention when they're doing something wrong, there's a split second between when they're doing something wrong and they're doing something right. Here's a good example. If the puppy's in a sit and you go to give a treat to the puppy for being a good boy or a good girl in sitting, and they get up from the sit and jump up to get the treat before it gets down to their mouth, and you give them that treat, you are rewarding them for jumping. We call this feed for position. We get the puppy in a sit, we get the puppy in a down. We reward that position with a yes, which is the marker, and the food reward, which is the reinforcer. Then the puppy's going to do more of that. But you have to feed for position. How to flip the script. Instead of reacting to bad behavior, owners should start rewarding the behavior that they want. And I've said this in every podcast episode for years. Focus on what you want. Focus on the outcome that you want. Focus on the behaviors that you want. Stop focusing on what you don't want. Stop focusing on overcorrecting or nagging the puppy when they're not doing something right. And focus on the behaviors that you want. Here's how you do that. Reward calm greetings instead of reacting to jumping. When you come home and the puppy is overexcited, ignore the puppy for a few minutes until they calm down, sit or lay on their bed, and reward that behavior by giving a bully stick, something to chew on, or some treats or a little bit of their food. You also want to reward quiet instead of responding to barking. And I just did a podcast on how to teach your puppy calmness, which is when they're quiet, you have to reward them so they know you want them to be quiet moving forward. If you're leash training and your puppy's pulling you, stop moving when the puppy's pulling and the puppy's getting out of control. Just stop, put them in a sit, put them in a down, make them wait, make them learn patience, make them learn frustration tolerance and impulse control. This requires a simple mindset shift. Like I've said earlier, focus on what you want, don't focus on what you don't want. Also, you really want to make sure that you are teaching the dog something, that they're learning something in that moment. Your job as the dog's owner is to set the puppy up for success, to teach the puppy, not to constantly correct and nag the puppy. Imagine if you had a job and you were new and you weren't trained yet on the software and on the policies and procedures of the company, and you have a trainer working with you. That trainer is constantly telling you, no, you're doing things wrong, stop that, don't do that, and they're nagging you. You're probably going to get frustrated and get another job because they just don't know how to handle new employees. What's the same way with your puppy? You have to be very patient and tolerant and focus on what you want the puppy to learn, not constantly correcting them on what they're not doing well. If you ask that one question, what is my dog learning from this moment, then you will get very far with raising your puppy. These are just some simple tips on how you can go from reinforcing bad behavior to reinforcing good behavior. It's a very subtle timing with all of your communication to the puppy, your vocal cues, your corrections, your body language, everything. You have to have the timing right in order to reinforce the good behaviors. This is what puppies want. This is how puppies thrive. I hope you enjoyed the information in this podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me through my website, puppytalkpodcast.com. Have a great